Thank you, Craig, and thank you to the Central Committee. It's so great to be here tonight as we really honor and celebrate Abraham Lincoln and really recognize just all that he contributed so much to our nation. I really believe this, that it's time for our party to get back to some of the central messages that Abraham Lincoln stood for. And right now, I believe this more than ever, even as we honor this time and recognize this day as Constitution Day, that we have to recognize that God created this nation. How many believe that God created this nation? And I believe this with all my heart, to really be a lamppost of freedom, where all of us as citizens can truly enjoy a nation where the very fabric of the nation, the foundation of our nation, is really built on principles of liberty, where we have the right and the freedom of press, the freedom of speech, the freedom of commerce and trade, the freedom to assemble like we're doing tonight, the freedom of worship like we do on Sunday mornings. Commerce, just to be able to do it without too much regulation. And what we've seen now is government, regulation, debt, corruption, Marxism, socialism. All these things really dampen and darken this lamp of freedom. And I believe this more than anything, that God wants to brighten that lamp of freedom up once again, and the time to do that is now. How many believe it's time? We have to. In order for us to do this, though, we have to recognize what it's going to take for the Republican Party. How are we going to branch forward and actually start winning again? So I'm a CEO of an investment bank. I co-founded it 20 years ago. We primarily do mergers and acquisitions. We do investment banking for the middle market. We do growth consulting, software engineering, wealth management, and now I have a restaurant division. So we're growing a little bit as well. We serve Dave's Hot Chicken. It's the best Nashville hot chicken in the world. We do all kinds of things, but I recognize this. Small businesses are struggling today because there's so much happening. And I have a deep understanding as an economist of what the world markets are doing, what our country is doing when we spend like we're spending. We're $32 trillion in debt. We're on track to be $50 trillion in 8 years. In 8 years, 15% of our budget is going to be on interest payments, and we don't have a dime to spend on it. We borrow money, use our children's credit cards to make these interest payments today. What I am suggesting is that we have to put together a plan. And as a CEO of an investment bank, I can see it. When we spend money, money supply increases. When money supply increases, inflation increases. When inflation increases, all of a sudden now the Fed starts taking over and raises interest rates to stop inflation. And right now today, 60% of the regional banks, this is more small communities just like this one, are hurting. We saw 3 bank failures earlier this year. The size of those 3 banks were the size of 28 banks that failed in 2008. Meanwhile, Janet Yellen, President Biden just say, oh, there's nothing to see here. Meaning if you can imagine that picture on that boat on the Titanic, if you remember the movie, when the band was just keep playing the music. This is exactly what we're doing today. Let's just keep playing the music. Everything's okay. But I'm telling you, the Republican Party is just as responsible for the inflation that we have today as the Democratic Party, and here's why. We have gone in debt after debt under each administration. We double our debt every 10 years. We went $7.5 trillion in debt under President Trump's 4 years of leadership. He did a lot of great things. I'm not running because I don't like him. Half of our contemporaries running here hate him. The other half, I say hate him, dislike him greatly. The other half are almost surrogates for him. I'm neither one. I supported him in 2016 and 2020. But at the end of the day, this is not about him and it's not about me. This is about the future generation of our nation. And if we don't capture the debt that we're in, we will be known as the generation that prospered the most but sacrificed the least. In our generation, we've had more wealth come into our generation, our lifetime, than the previous 2 generations combined. And all we have to do is just balance the budget. All we have to do is get our expenses in line, and we are failing miserably. I'm running as a CEO. I'm also running as a pastor. I believe this, that we need a spiritual revival in our country. It is time that we recognize that God cares. And I believe this more than anything, it's time for us to end the division. It's time for us to transcend our party and do what Ronald Reagan did in 1984. In his second term, he won 59% of the electorate vote in the United States of America. President Trump, he did great, but he only won 46% of the vote in both terms. We've lost 3 of the last 4 elections. I can like many things he did. I like the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. I like the Supreme Court justices. I like the fact that he stands up against the corruption that's around, and I will do that as president. But there's so many things I've got to say that I've got to tell us that we have an opportunity to open up the door, because I also see what time it is. We're at war today. We have 50 trillion in debt on the books scheduled to happen in the next few short years. We're in trouble. I see a perfect storm coming, and if we don't make some changes, we will fail. We will not pass this off to our kids the way they need to. Right now, college students coming out of college, $2,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. They have delayed job employment today. One of my son's best friends graduated from a top business school. They offered him a great job. Can you start 6 months from now? I don't know about you, but when I got out of college, I couldn't afford to wait 6 months to pay rent, to pay my car payment, and to live. This is what our kids are facing right now. We have an opportunity, and this is what I want to share with our party. We are the GOP. I love our party. But the GOP stands for the Grand Old Party, but we need to have a grand new message today. We have a great message, but we're not connecting it really to the growing segments of our country. We lost in this last election 46 of the top 50 cities by population. I want you to think about that for a second. The fastest growing cultural centers of our country, we have lost. We lost 70% of the college student vote. There are 70 million Gen Zers and millennials voting. We can dislike everything they stand for, but if we don't win their heart, we will lose the election. We have to come to them and we have to show them that a small government, an opportunity for democracy and freedom is way better than this socialism garbage that they're getting down their throat, but we have to connect to their heart to do it. My wife and I did young adult ministry for 17 years before we started our church 10 years ago. This is what young people want to know. They want to know, are you authentic? And then they want to know this, do you care? You could offer them $1 million, but if you don't help somebody that's poor, help somebody that's hurting, they won't take it. They're idealists. They haven't had a job yet. They haven't had the government come taking their paycheck yet. But we have to win them. And I want to talk to you about how we can win urban America, how we can win young people, and how we can balance the budget. If we don't rescue this financially, we are going to be so broke that we're not going to be able to have the opportunity to lead across the world. China's a threat, no question, but they're not even paying attention to us today. He's not even taking the phone call of the President of the United States. 20 years ago, I went to China. They were inviting us for investment. Now they're ignoring us completely. They're doing investments with Brazil, Russia, India, Latin America. They're developing ports, dams, bridges. They're putting people on the ground. They're loaning money to Africa, to Eastern Europe. You know what we're doing? We are borrowing money. The Bible says the borrower is a slave to the lender. We're giving up our freedoms with every dollar we borrow every day, and it's time for us to stop. We have to stop. As a nation, our party just keeps doing the same thing. And most Republicans are out there saying, yes, I'm going to cut some earmarks. I'm going to do this. It's way beyond that. We have got social programs that have ballooned up like crazy. We cannot balance the budget unless we do become energy independent, but also unless we truly reform health care. I am the only Republican that I know of. I'm inviting all to join me to truly offer an alternative to socialized health care, which is what we have today. And I'm putting together a demonopolized, desocialized health care plan. And here's how we're going to do it. Because this is 40% of our budget that goes out the door every day. We can't balance the budget until we do this. This is what we need to do. We need to get rid of the monopolies in the health insurance exchanges. We need to get rid of the monopolies in healthcare providers. And we need to get rid of the monopolistic power of big pharma. Here's how we would do it. We've got an old law that keeps health insurance exchanges from competing across state lines. I've got over 6,000 competitors in the mergers and acquisitions market. You've got 3 in the health insurance exchanges right here in Iowa. 3. You ought to have hundreds. And what competition does, price transparency does, it brings costs down. We've let them convince us that either healthcare is too complicated or we're just not smart enough to get it. And I'm telling you what, neither one is true. But it's the only thing we purchase as Americans today when we walk into the doctor's office and we no longer ask this one question: how much does it cost for me to be here? So we just give them our card. We find out 90 days later, oh my gosh, that was $20,000. Thank God I've got insurance. And what happens next year? Your premiums go up 20% all across the board, and our deductibles go up. I've got a friend of mine, his son was having a child with his wife. They had a $12,000 deductible plan. They walked right into the hospital to have the baby. They go like, I don't have $12,000. And they said, how much of it we pay cash? They got back with them and said, how about $5,000? This is the only thing that we purchase in the United States that we do deals like this with cash. It's because it's corrupt. It's because there's so much corruption in it. We have to clean it out. Big Pharma owns Congress. Big Pharma owns the last two presidents as well financially. They gave $3 million to Donald Trump, $9 million to President Biden. You know what we do in America? We subsidize Big Pharma across the world. We pay 3 times as much as any other country in the nation in pharmaceutical drugs. And you know why? Because we're philanthropists for some reason. We have to stop it. Canada pays 28% of the drug costs that we do today. What they do, and here's what we do, we put patent hedges around it. We give them an extra 15 years on the big, powerful drugs. And this is what we do. We give them 35 years many times. Every other nation, 15 or 20. We have to stop it. When we do, we'll be under control. We have to win urban America. My message is this. I can't ignore urban America anymore. If we want to ignore them, fine. If we want to treat them like the left is our enemy forever, fine. But we don't have to fight the left forever. You know what we got to do? Win the middle. This is what Ronald Reagan did. He said, I'm going to win the next 5% over. I'm not going to vilify everybody that disagrees with me and hates me all day long. Let's win the next 5% and we can lead this country. We can lead this country. Here's how we do it. We don't have any money. I don't have any money to give the poor, but our message to the poor is not there at all. And this is what I'm suggesting we do, because they've got a message to the poor, the Democrats do. Free healthcare, free food, free tuition, free whatever. We're broke as can be. We're going to be $2 trillion in debt this year alone. But what I'm suggesting is this, that we start doing what Jesus said to do. Jesus never said hire the government to go take care of your neighborhood. He said you go love your neighbor. So what do we need to do? Well, let's go love our neighbor. I think we should start community centers, job training. Let's put people back to work again in the United States of America. We have trained them to take off work, and it's okay. We'll just pay you. I'm done with that. We can't do that anymore. No more Medicaid, no more welfare. If you're an able-bodied American and you can work, you're going to go to work, but we're going to show you how. We're going to give you a living wage job. Amen? You guys ready to do that? We've got to put people back to work again. I'm asking college students to do this. They hate politics. I said abandon politics, but join in a movement to love your neighbor. I'm asking college students to give me 5 hours a week and mentor a third grader on how to read. A third grader. We are 1 out of 6 black children in urban America are reading at the 8th grade reading level. There's no way to end the cycle of poverty if we don't increase education. Mentors will help. We can change this. Without big government, I believe in the freedom of education. I believe that parents need choice. I believe we need to give that every way. I'm going to stand for your freedom at every single. We're going to protect our kids. We're going to fight for them, but we've got to lead differently today. I'm asking us to grow our party. It's a different message for the Republican Party. It's time that we win again. It's time that we win. I can't sit back, and the reason I'm running, I got 5 kids. I can't sit there and back and watch this thing just drift away. I'm standing with you in this journey, but it's going to take this one thing. It's going to take faith. It's going to take us believing in God, believing in each other, turning back to God and doing things His way. And when we start paying attention to the least in society, the widow, the orphan, the poor, the stranger at the gate in our country, God will shine on us again. And we can do it the Republican way. 3 months ago, I got baptized in Iowa politics. I was on my way to my 15th pizza ranch, I think. And I was meeting with Governor Reynolds that night. I was the only Republican set to meet with her in Dickinson County and speak to a group like this. We took a shortcut because we were 20 minutes late going to the pizza ranch. And my driver said, hey, I found a new way, but it was one of your grade B roads, gravel roads. We didn't know that some of you guys have been praying for rain. Dear Lord. Anyway, we got over this hill. It turned into a dirt road. Right on the other side of the hill, it rained on the other side of the hill. We started fishtailing down it. We gassed it as much as we could to get up that hill. We didn't make it. We started drifting back down. We ended up in the ditch, side saddled like this. I had a suit on just like this. I thought, dear God, I'm meeting with the governor in 4 hours. If a tow truck was right beside me, we wouldn't be able to get out. I was this much in mud in my shoes. One of my friends walked up about a half mile, as far as the eye could see, cornfields. I mean, there was nothing but cornfield. And then we walked up this hill, and we prayed, and a woman stopped in a white pickup truck. I've been telling America that we need to believe again. She rolled down the window, and she said, can I help you? Her name was Faith. Faith had a friend named Rich, and he brought over another friend named Rick in a big red tractor, and they pulled us out. We were 45 minutes late to that pizza ranch. I showed up with mud all over my shoes. This is what I love about Iowa. All 12 people stayed that day. If I was in Dallas, Texas, they would have left me a long time ago. But this is what we need to have. I had faith show up that day. We need faith in America. We need to believe that we can come through this division. We need to believe that we can come out of this. We have the best message. We got to communicate it with love. We will change the culture of this country. We can win young people. We can win urban America. We don't have to win them all. I just got to win a little bit. And we start winning people with things that make sense. A smaller government, better business, better opportunities, teaching trades and vocational skills to young people. We'll win their hearts. When we win their hearts, then we don't have to tell them we're Republican. They'll know it wasn't the government that helped them. They'll know it was a friend. God bless you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.